Chapter 3. Achieving Your Goals.
Several years ago, a concerned father came to me asking, "Why does my son fail in every job he gets?" It was indeed difficult to understand the failure of this young man, for he seemed to have everything. He was from a good family, he was very personable, and his educational and business opportunities were above average. Nevertheless, he had a tragic flair for failure. He tried hard enough, yet somehow he always missed success. Not long ago, I ran into this young man and was amazed at a transformation that had taken place. He was now a dynamic figure at the height of his powers. I asked him to explain the remarkable change. "It was really quite simple," he told me. "I merely learned the magic of believing. I discovered that if you expect the worst, you will get the worst, and if you expect the best, you will get the best. It all happened through actually practicing a verse from the Bible. If you can believe, all things are possible to him that believeth." When I heard those words, I had a flash of insight. I realized that the key I had missed was that my mind was not trained to believe, to think positively, to have faith in either God or myself. After I adopted that policy, things began to change for me almost at once. I got into the habit of expecting the best, not the worst. And that is the way my affairs have turned out lately. I guess it's a kind of a miracle, isn't it? I told my young friend that what had happened to him wasn't miraculous at all. Actually, he had learned to use one of the most powerful laws in the world, namely, change your mental habits to belief instead of disbelief. It was William James who said, "Our belief at the beginning of a doubtful undertaking is the one thing that ensures the successful outcome of the venture. When you expect the best, you release a magnetic force in your mind by a law of attraction. This force tends to bring the best to you." Things get better when you expect the best, because when you are freed from self-doubt, you can put your whole self into a project. Nothing can stand in the way of the person who focuses his or her entire self on a problem. When the full concentration of all your forces, physical, emotional, and spiritual, is brought to bear, the consolidation of these powers at work is quite irresistible. So a major key to attaining that which you deeply desire is to be totally released from doubt, so that you can throw yourself completely into your endeavor. In other words, whatever you're doing, give it all you've got. Hold nothing back. Life cannot deny itself to the person who gives life his all. Unfortunately, most people don't do that. In fact, very few people do, and this is the tragic cause of most failures. A famous trapeze artist was teaching his students how to perform on the high trapeze bar. When one student was called on to demonstrate, he looked up at the insecure perch and was suddenly filled with fear. He froze completely. He had a terrifying vision of himself falling to the ground. So deep was his fright, he couldn't move a muscle. The instructor put his arm around the boy's shoulder and said, "Son, you can do it, and I will tell you how." Then he made a statement which is one of the wisest remarks I have ever heard. He said, "Throw your heart over the bar, and your body will follow." Copy that one sentence. Write it on your mind, you who really want to do something with your life. Heart is the symbol of creative activity. Fire your heart with where you want to go and what you want to be. Get it so deeply fixed in your unconscious that you will not take no for an answer. Then your entire personality will follow where your heart leads. If you throw your heart over the bar, your faith will allow you to swing up to any high place you want to take your life. Whenever you have a bar, that is to say a barrier in front of you, stop, close your eyes, visualize everything that is above the bar and nothing that is below it. Then, imaginatively, throw your heart over the bar and see yourself as being given lifting power to rise above it. Every day as you confront the problems of life, I suggest that you affirm as follows: I believe that God gives me power to attain what I really want. Never mention the worst. Never think of it. Drop it out of your consciousness. Faith supplies staying power. It contains the dynamic you need to keep going when the going is hard. Anybody can keep going when the going is good, but some extra ingredient is needed to enable you to keep fighting when it seems that everything is against you. I want to share with you a great insight to keep in mind when you're confronted by an obstacle. I learned this one day playing golf when I hit a ball into the rough, into some high grass. I said with some dismay to my partner, "Now just look at that. I'm in the rough with a bad lie, and it's certainly going to be tough getting out of here." But my friend grinned at me and said, "Didn't I read something about positive thinking in your books?" Sheepishly, I acknowledged that such was the case. "I wouldn't think so negatively about that lie of yours," he said. "Do you think you could get a good hit if this ball were lying out on the fairway on short grass?" I said, "Yes, I thought so." Then he did a rather whimsical thing. He asked me to notice the quality of the grass. "Chew it," he said. I chewed, and he asked, "Is it tender?" "Why, yes," I replied, "it certainly does seem to be tender grass." "Well," he continued, "an easy swing of your number 5 iron will cut through that grass almost like a knife." And then he gave me this sentence, which I'm going to remember as long as I live, and which I hope you will too. "The rough is only mental," he said. In other words, it is rough because you think it is. In your mind, you've decided that here's an obstacle which will cause you difficulty. But the power to overcome this obstacle is also in your mind. If you visualize yourself lifting that ball out of the rough, believing that you can do it, your mind will transfer flexibility, rhythm, and power to your muscles, and you will handle that club in such a manner that the ball will rise right out of there in a beautiful shot. All you need to do is keep your eye on that ball and tell yourself that you are going to lift it out with a beautiful stroke. Let the stiffness and tension go out of you. Hit it with exhilaration and power. Remember, the rough is only mental. To this day, I remember the thrill, the sense of power and delight I had in the clean shot that dropped the ball to the edge of the green. That is a very great fact to remember when you're faced with difficult problems. The rough is only mental. So if you want to change your circumstances, you must first start thinking differently. Form a picture in your mind of circumstances as they should be. Hold that picture. Develop it firmly in all details. Believe in it, pray about it, work at it, and you can make it become a reality. This is one of the greatest laws in the universe. Believe and succeed. I learned this law firsthand in a very interesting manner. Some years ago, I was involved in an enterprise that was faced with severe financial problems. When it seemed almost impossible to keep it going, My colleagues and I called a meeting. Attending was a woman who had once contributed a nice sum to our endeavor. We hoped that lightning might strike twice in the same place, but this time she said she would give us something of more value than money. She told us she was going to give us a creative idea. I must admit, we thought to ourselves unenthusiastically, how can we pay our bills with an idea? But as it turned out, an idea is precisely what helped us pay our bills. Every achievement in the world was first projected as a creative idea. First the idea, then faith in it, then the means of implementing the idea. That is the way success proceeds. What she told us was that we were lacking the resources we needed simply because we were thinking only in terms of lack. To correct the situation, she advised us to reverse the mental process and begin to think prosperity, achievement, success. Don't hold on to mental pictures of difficulties and failures. Don't think lack thoughts. Lift your mind above them and visualize powers and achievements. When you elevate your thoughts into the realm of attainment, you look down on your problems rather than up at them, and thus you get a more encouraging view. In our session, she told us to visualize the solution to our problem. Once we'd done this, she suggested that we pray and thank the Lord for giving us what we needed, as if the problem had already been overcome. At that, I remembered a verse in the Scriptures where it says, "And all things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing, ye shall receive them." That means that when you pray for something, visualize what you pray for. Believe that if it is God's will and is not selfishly sought after, that it is at that moment given to you. If you have difficulty following this reasoning, let me assure you, from that moment on, our enterprise never lacked for anything. I tell this story because I was awed by the experience, realizing that I had stumbled upon a tremendous law of personal victory. I decided to apply it thereafter to my own problems, and whenever I've done so, I've had marvelous results. Whenever I've failed to do so, I've missed great results.